Ladies, listen closely. You know that little gut feeling you get when something doesn't sit right? That uneasiness when a man says something that seems harmless, but just feels off. That's not paranoia. That's your intuition screaming, pay attention. In this video, we're not talking about obvious red flags like cheating or yelling. We're diving into the subtle, strategic, and manipulative things men say that seem innocent on the surface, but are actually warning signs in disguise. These are the phrases that slip into conversations and quietly chip away at your confidence, your boundaries, and your peace of mind. Statements like "you're too sensitive" or "you're overreacting" are not just casual remarks, they're tactics. They're designed to make you doubt yourself, question your reactions, and ultimately hand over your emotional power. But here's the truth, a man who respects you will never try to control how you feel. He won't gaslight you into silence. He won't minimize your emotions to protect his ego. This video is your warning and your wake-up call, because knowing these red flags could be the difference between staying in a toxic cycle and finally walking away with your dignity intact. If you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling smaller, confused, or like you had to apologize for your emotions, this video is for you, because the words he chooses matter, and what's hidden behind them matters even more. Stay tuned. This could change how you see everything. You're too sensitive. It sounds simple, almost like a throwaway comment, but this one sentence has the power to silence you, make you second-guess your instincts, and turn your very real emotions into something you feel ashamed of. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. When a man says this to you, it's not always about what he's saying, it's about what he's doing. Flipping the script. Instead of taking responsibility for his hurtful behavior, he shifts the blame onto you. Now you're not reacting to something that was wrong, you're just being too sensitive, too emotional, or too dramatic. See the pattern? It's classic emotional manipulation, and it's subtle enough to slip under your radar, especially if you care about him or want to keep the peace. Maybe it happens after you express hurt over a sarcastic comment, or when you point out something that made you uncomfortable. Instead of listening, apologizing, or asking why it upset you, he brushes it off with this one line that makes it feel like you're the problem for even bringing it up. But here's the truth. Sensitivity is not a weakness. It's emotional intelligence. It means you feel deeply, you're aware of your surroundings, and you care enough to speak up when something doesn't feel right. That's not a flaw. That's a strength. And any man who sees your sensitivity as something to mock or manipulate is showing you he's not emotionally safe. Often, "you're too sensitive" is used to shut you down during arguments. It's a defense mechanism, one that says, "I don't want to deal with how you feel, so I'll make you question your right to feel it in the first place." The moment you accept that narrative, you start shrinking yourself. You learn to stay quiet instead of speaking up. You let things slide that shouldn't be ignored. And little by little, your voice gets smaller, not because you want it to, but because he made you believe it needed to be. This phrase is also a red flag, because it shows a lack of emotional accountability. A mature, emotionally available man doesn't minimize your feelings. He's curious about them. He wants to understand what's going on inside you, even if it makes him uncomfortable, because real connection requires empathy, not dismissal. So the next time someone says you're too sensitive, pause and check in with yourself. Are you really overreacting, or are you simply reacting to something that crossed a boundary? And more importantly, do you want to be with someone who makes you feel like your emotions are a burden? You deserve a relationship where you can express yourself without fear of being ridiculed, where your feelings aren't labeled as too much, but met with understanding and respect. Because the truth is, if a man can't handle your sensitivity, he doesn't deserve your depth. And sis, your depth is everything. You're lucky I'm even with you. This phrase may come wrapped in sarcasm or delivered with a smile, but make no mistake, it's one of the most toxic, degrading things a man can say to a woman. It's not just a jab at your self-worth. It's a calculated attempt to make you feel like he's doing you a favor by being in your life. And that is a manipulation tactic disguised as a compliment. At its core, this line is about power. It's meant to establish control. Instead of building a relationship on mutual value, respect, and admiration, it positions him as the prize and you as someone barely good enough to keep him. It's designed to make you feel small, replaceable, and grateful for scraps of attention, no matter how poorly he treats you. Think about what's really being communicated. You should feel lucky I chose you. Not because he genuinely values you, but because he wants you to believe no one else would. And once you internalize that idea, it becomes easier for him to push boundaries, neglect your needs, and emotionally manipulate you. All while you stay afraid you won't find better. But here's the truth. No one is doing you a favor by choosing to be with you. A healthy relationship is built on choice, not obligation or pity. You bring value, beauty, and energy into every space you enter. And anyone who gets to experience that should feel just as fortunate. Not because you're lucky to have them, but because real love is mutual, balanced, and never rooted in superiority. This phrase is especially dangerous because it plants seeds of insecurity. You start questioning your worth. You start believing that you need to earn someone's love instead of understanding that you deserve it, just by being you. And once that mindset takes hold, it becomes easier to tolerate disrespect, excuses, and emotional abandonment. You may start overextending yourself just to prove you're worthy of him. You might stay in a relationship that's clearly draining you because he's convinced you that he's the best you can get. That's not love. That's emotional manipulation dressed up as romantic scarcity. Anyone who truly loves and respects you will never use their presence as a weapon. They'll never try to convince you that they're out of your league or that they're doing you a favor by staying. That's not love. That's ego. The right man will remind you that you're a gift, that your presence is a blessing, that your love, your time, and your energy are valuable. And if someone ever dares to make you feel otherwise, walk away with your head held high, because the only person who's lucky is the one who gets to keep you. Let's break it down. When a man casually refers to his ex as crazy, he's not just telling you a story, he's shaping a narrative. One where he was the victim, where he did nothing wrong, and where she was entirely at fault. He's trying to control how you perceive him, while quietly discrediting the only other person who truly knew what he's like in a relationship. That's strategic, that's calculated, and it's dangerous. Because here's the reality. Relationships are complex. No one leaves one without contributing something to its breakdown. So when a man tells you his ex was crazy and offers no real context, no reflection, no ownership of his own mistakes, that's not a green flag. That's someone who refuses to grow. That's someone who blames instead of learns. Even worse, labeling a woman crazy is a subtle form of gaslighting. It's meant to make her seem irrational, unstable, or overly emotional, not because she was, but because she likely had valid reactions to being mistreated. Maybe she asked too many questions. Maybe she called him out. Maybe she demanded respect. And rather than face that truth, he wrote her off with one dismissive word, crazy. And if he did it to her, what do you think he'll say about you when things get hard? This kind of language is often used to isolate, to manipulate, and to preemptively discredit any woman who dared to hold him accountable. So if you ever reach a point where you feel the same confusion or anger she did, he's already planted the seed that you must be just like her. Irrational, dramatic, emotional. It's a way of silencing you before you even speak. It's also a tactic used by emotionally immature men to test your loyalty. If you hear this and immediately align with him, wow, poor you, she sounds awful, you're unknowingly reinforcing his version of the story and giving him permission to do it again. But if you pause, if you question why he's speaking that way about someone he once loved, you're signaling that you see through the manipulation, and that scares him. The truth is, no healthy man talks about his ex with venom. Even if it ended badly, a mature man will speak with honesty, not hatred. He'll say, we had our issues, or we weren't right for each other, instead of assassinating her character, because he understands that the way he talks about her says a lot more about him than it does about her. So when you hear my ex was crazy, don't laugh, don't shrug it off. Pay attention, because that sentence is telling you everything you need to know about how he views women, how he handles emotions, and how he'll talk about you if things don't go his way. And trust this, no woman becomes crazy for no reason. Sometimes crazy is just code for she saw through me and refused to tolerate less than she deserved. So if you hear this phrase, take it as your cue, not to judge her, but to start asking very real questions about him. You're overthinking it. On the surface, this phrase might seem like an attempt to calm things down. Maybe you're expressing concern about something that felt off, or trying to connect the dots on a situation that doesn't sit right. But instead of listening, Instead of leaning into what you're feeling, he cuts you off with those 4 dismissive words. Suddenly the focus isn't on the issue anymore. It's on you, your mind, your emotions, your perception. And just like that, he's made you the problem. Telling someone they're overthinking is one of the quickest ways to shut down a conversation without actually resolving anything. It's a deflection, a subtle form of gaslighting that makes you question your instincts and second guess your voice. Instead of being encouraged to express yourself, you're made to feel like your thoughts are irrational, unnecessary, or even annoying. But let's be honest, overthinking doesn't usually come out of nowhere. Most of the time, it stems from inconsistencies, confusion, or unaddressed tension in the relationship. Maybe it's mixed signals. Maybe it's something he said that didn't align with his actions. Maybe it's a recurring pattern you're trying to make sense of. The mind doesn't spiral without a trigger. And when a woman starts overanalyzing, it's often because something in her environment feels unsafe or uncertain. Instead of addressing the root cause, emotionally unavailable men will label it as overthinking because it's easier than taking accountability. It's easier than having a vulnerable conversation. It's easier than saying, you're right to feel that way. Let's talk about it. So they default to invalidation. And when they do, it chips away at your ability to trust yourself. Over time, this type of dismissal makes you doubt your own perception. You'll start holding back, thinking, maybe I'm just being too much. Maybe I should stop bringing things up. And that's exactly what someone who doesn't want to be held accountable wants. Because when you stop speaking up, they don't have to change. They don't have to show up better. They can stay comfortable while you stay confused. It's also important to realize that when someone tells you you're overthinking it, what they're really doing is protecting their comfort at the expense of your clarity. They don't want to dig deeper because they know there's something there, something true, something real, and they're not ready or willing to deal with it. The truth is, a man who values your thoughts won't be scared of them. He won't make you feel silly for asking questions or seeking clarity. He'll welcome your emotional intelligence. He'll say, let's talk about it, instead of you're making this bigger than it is. He won't treat your concerns like an inconvenience. He'll treat them like an opportunity to grow closer, to build trust, and to truly understand what matters to you. So the next time someone tells you you're overthinking, take a moment. Ask yourself, am I really overthinking, or am I picking up on something they don't want to admit? Because your intuition is powerful. Your thoughts are valid. And if someone consistently makes you feel like they're not, it's not a sign that you need to think less. It's a sign that they're not a safe space for your mind or your heart. You're not overthinking. You're seeing clearly. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. I don't want anything serious right now. When a man says this to you, believe him. Don't try to decode it. Don't wait for it to change. Don't hear it and turn it into, but maybe if I show him how amazing I am, he'll change his mind. Because what he's giving you in that moment isn't a puzzle to solve. It's clarity. It might hurt, it might sting, and it might not be what you wanted to hear. But it's the truth. And it's a gift if you're willing to receive it without denial. This phrase is often delivered gently, sometimes even respectfully, but its impact is anything but soft. Especially when you've started catching feelings. Especially when he's been showing you signs of closeness. Texting consistently, spending time with you, maybe even sleeping with you. So when he finally drops that line, it feels confusing. It feels like he's backtracking, like all the energy and connection you've shared doesn't match what he's now saying. And that mismatch, it's emotional whiplash. But here's the hard truth. A man who says, I don't want anything serious right now means it. He's setting a boundary, not just around commitment, but around emotional availability. He's telling you he's not ready to meet you at the level of depth and consistency that a real relationship requires. And whether that's because of timing, immaturity, unresolved issues, or simply because he's not as into the connection as you are, the why doesn't matter as much as the what. And the what is he's not ready to give you what you want. Now, what often happens, and this is where many women fall into emotional limbo, is that even after saying this, he'll still act like a boyfriend. He'll call, he'll cuddle, he'll keep you close enough to feel wanted, but far enough to never feel secure. And that's not because he's confused. It's because he enjoys the benefits of your presence without the responsibility of a commitment. He knows you want more. He knows you're hoping he'll change his mind, and he keeps showing up just enough to keep that hope alive. But waiting on someone